Now, you know you're becoming a coin collector when you start referring to your pocket change as potential treasures, and finding a 1996 nickel in your pocket change might just make your day. Coin roll hunters and collectors alike have become aware of a rare Canadian nickel heir from the year 1996 that can be worth some really decent money even if it isn't in the greatest shape. If you were to check the Coins in Canada website a few years ago, you would only see two varieties listed for the 1996. These two varieties are the Near and Far 6. Usually you'd be looking for the Far 6, and that variety can actually be worth a couple $100s if it hits in the high MS mark. To tell the difference between the Near and Far 6, you need to look at the final digit 6 in the date 1996, and then look at its proximity and distance to the bottom of the D in Canada. If the 6 is very close to, but not making contact or touching the D, then you have the Near 6. If there appears to be a space or gap between the number and the letter D, then you have the Far 6, and the Far 6 is actually the more valuable of the two varieties. But what if I told you that there is a third variety that is actually much more rare and valuable than the previous two? You could say one 1996 nickel to rule them all, and that is the Attached 6 variety. Now, whether due to severe die deterioration, cracks, or any number of other production problems that can occur during the minting process, it would seem that a rare heir or variety escaped into circulation. To identify this, you need to look once again at that final digit in the date, and if that 6 is touching or making contact with the D in the inscription Canada, then you have yourself a fairly valuable Canadian nickel. Now, before we get into the value, some of the details and specifications for this coin, if any of these are off, it might indicate that it is not legitimate. And you might think it's actually silly to check all of these little specifications, but you would be surprised at the counterfeit coins that can be purchased online these days. Coins like the 1921 half dollar and 5-cent piece, the 1948 silver dollars, even the 1944 Tomback nickel, and even some minor modern heirs and varieties. I've seen listings for all of these counterfeit coins, some of which only sell for $1 or $2. So it never hurts to be thorough, especially if you already went to the work of identifying the Attached 6. So the specifications for the 1996 nickel: it is composed of 75% copper, 25% nickel. It has a weight of 4.6 grams, a diameter of 21.2 millimeters, a thickness of 1.76 millimeters. The designers and engravers for the obverse of the coin are Dora de Pedri Hunt and Ago Aran, and G.E. Kruger Gray and Thomas Shingles for the reverse of the coin. The edge of the coin is smooth, it is non-magnetic, and it has a die-axis in metal alignment, as is the standard for most Canadian coins. Now, in terms of value, Coins in Canada doesn't actually list low-end price values. The estimate starts kicking in around AU50, and they do evaluate this coin at $134 for an AU50 example, but I do think that it is worth anywhere from $10 to $20 for a G to VG example of one of these coins. People want them. They are definitely a good example of a Canadian heir and some significant die deterioration if the D is connected to that 6. Now, when you start to get into the MS mark, you see some pretty high price jumps for this coin. It can be worth around $150 for an MS60, but if you are to look at the Far 6 1996, that coin can actually be worth $300 for an MS67. So I don't doubt at all that this nickel could easily be worth up to $1,000 to $5,000 for an MS67. If you were to find one that was in a high mint state, your best chance at this point of finding one that is that nice is probably from an uncirculated roll. And never say never, because I have found 1967 rabbit nickel uncirculated rolls from the bank before. These were original bank rolls, so I know that there can be stuff like these 1996s out there. You just need to keep your eyes open, and if you find an uncirculated roll and there is an Attached 6 as the ender, then chances are most of the coins inside that roll are going to have the Attached 6 variety. Usually when you have an heir or variety, most of the coins in the roll will have the variety, or none of them will, because all of the coins are struck and packaged consecutively. So if you do ever happen to come across a 1996 uncirculated roll of Canadian nickels, the first thing that you can look for is this Attached 6, and if you do see that on the ender of the roll, I definitely suggest you buy it. But even if the entire roll is Far 6s and you send them in to be graded and they score an MS66, MS67, it is still a fairly rare and valuable nickel. You do not want the 1996s with the close 6. That one is the least rare and valuable of the 1996 varieties. So if you find any of those while you're coin roll hunting, just chuck them to the side.